If you could get out of debt, you'd have some money. If you didn't have any payments, you'd have some money. And people look at me with two different problems with that. One is they get all sophisticated and academic. They start talking about, well, Dave, there's good debt. There's good debt, and Wall Street has proven that recently. Dave, debt is a tool to be used for your good. And I used to believe that garbage too. I was in college and they used to teach us this stuff about leverage and internal rates of return and net present values. And I'm not against education. I mean, my financial education is part of where I am now. Academia is a good thing. But you can't believe everything you hear to the extent it doesn't line up with this. Because, I got to thinking, the borrower is truly slave to the lender. We're not kidding about that. God's truth says that every single time. And I got to thinking about it, and I'm thinking, who was it taught me that borrowing money was good? This was my finance professor in college who was broke. A broke finance professor is like a shop teacher with missing fingers. You see, if you want to win, you ought to try finding some people that are winning and emulate or mimic what they are doing. If you hire a personal trainer and you walk in the first morning and your personal trainer is 400 pounds, we got a problem. If you've written a book on marriage and you've been married 14 times, bless your heart, I hope this one sticks, but I don't want to read your book. Forbes magazine has the 400 wealthiest people in North America that it publishes every year. 67% of them, 7 out of 10 of them, are first generation rich. They started with nothing, became wealthy. When they surveyed the wealthiest people in North America, not your broke brother-in-law with an opinion, but the 400 wealthiest people in North America, and they asked them what the most important key to becoming wealthy was, 75% of them said getting out of debt and staying out of debt. Unless you have the money, that by definition is you can't afford it. Because when you go into debt, then you're hooked to those payments. Now you're a slave. Jesus said it's tough to serve two masters. So what are we going to do about it? So how are we going to get out? Well, we want to talk about breaking the bondage of debt and how you really do it in a real practical, hands-on, real-world application. See, the truth is that if you spread a lie or a myth often enough, loud enough, and with enough sophistication, eventually people will begin to believe it. And they will tell other people about the lie. And it's not that they meant to lie, they just believed a lie and they spread it. See, what has happened with this is debt has been marketed to us so aggressively, so thoroughly, with such sophistication and such manipulation for so long that Americans and people all around the world have begun to believe all deep down within their heart that they will never financially be somebody unless they use debt to do it. Debt is the path to prosperity. If you want you a good car, son, you got to build your credit. You'll never be anybody unless you build your credit. The rich rules over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. By the way, 80% of 90 days, same as cash, doesn't pay off in 90 days, and transfers to high-interest loans at your local finance company, 24 to 38%, with a prepayment penalty just to go ahead and kick you one more time to remind you how dumb you were. Most people don't pay it off in 90 days. And if you don't pay it off in 90 days, by the way, the 90 days isn't free either. They backcharge you through that for the interest. It's how it works. It's a game. It's called fishing. Right? That's the deal. You know what happens when broke people get a house? They get broker. That's why they call them real estate brokers. A house is not a blessing when you're broke. It'll take you apart and take you down. So if you want to get a house, do some stuff about money that the Bible says so you're not broke anymore, and then go get you a house. But I didn't do that. I've been married about 15 minutes. People are in my living room going, you need to get a house. Get a house, get a house, get a house, get a house. And so we went and found a house with nothing down because that's how much we had to put down. They called it creative financing, which if you look it up in the Greek means too broke to buy a house. And so we bought a house about 3 blocks over from where I grew up. Larry Burkett used to say we spend the first 5 to 7 years of our marriage trying to attain the same standard of living as our parents. Only it took them 35 years to get there. I lived in the same neighborhood as mom and dad, had a better car than mom and dad, and for sure had a better TV and stereo system than mom and dad. 52% of the marriages end in divorce in North America today. Of those that divorce, the number one cause is money fights and money problems. Of those that divorce in the first 7 years of marriage, 90% say money problems. Young marriages are falling apart everywhere. You know why? When you're like this, your leg gets tight.